Buns. So a couple days ago, I got a DM from somebody who said that they had heard me talk about bad players. Can you get into more details of that? Because I suck, and playing team games and raids are a pain for me because I don't like talking to people.
Just get good.
I just want to play the game solo if possible, but realize
just be good.
I can't. Now, they had heard me talk about bad players in the context of a conversation about boosting. Someone else had brought up the argument that if you pay real money to level your character, it's more likely you'll be bad because you'll end up with a ton of high-level skills
That's true.
that you have no idea
100%
how to use.
true.
Now, that's, of course, assuming you don't take the time to read the tooltips and figure it out.
Yeah.
But I had countered that by saying that you can absolutely be bad without boosting. Like, as far as I know, there's...
It's kind of like a degree of certainty. So, like, if somebody boosts their character, there's a higher chance that they're going to be bad at what they're boosting than if they leveled it themselves. But the chances are still pretty fucking high either way.
No alternate ending to Heaven's Word where Harshaphon teaches you how to slide cast. But I thought this was a really good question that a lot of new players might want some more clarification on. Like, what actually makes you a bad player? What qualifies as good?
Wow.
Or at least decent? To me, being bad means that you're not only performing like shit, but you also won't
not willing
listen
to perform better.
to anyone.
Yeah.
You won't look up guides. You won't read your tooltips. You are willfully ignorant, or worse, you've even got such a big ego about how you know everything that you think that there's nothing that any other person could say that could possibly be helpful to you.
Because you're above that, man.
Who the universe revolves around. Like, you think the sun comes up just to hear you crow. I think there's a really big and important difference to be made here between being bad and learning. Because, as I'm fond of quoting Jake the dog, sucking at something is the first step to being sort of good at it. I remember being new.
Winning looks a lot like losing until you win. That's the truth. Is that you have to lose and you have to fuck up in order for you to succeed.
And I just didn't even know what to focus on or what was important.
At least I do.
And my attention, I'm a little bit scatterbrained.
I have to fuck up a lot.
Naturally. And so
sometimes I fuck up the same thing like 5 times.
And I didn't know like where to focus it. I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants through the story, having fun wherever I could find it, and not stressing too much about anything in particular. But however, whenever I did join a static and there was a helpful person in my group who let me know, hey, do you know your DPS could be a little better? Or, hey, do you know that materia is really important? Or, hey, did you notice that your dots keep falling off? I didn't know any of that, but once that was brought to my attention...
What is materia? Gems. That's crazy. You know, you learn something new every day.
And this very helpful person showed me how to use an abacus to check my damage.
Oh, that little thing where you go back and
like
forth.
That. Anyway, they were very helpful. They showed me... like, once I got that information, I was very, very receptive to it, and I listened, and it helped me become a much better player. Maybe some people would have said I was bad, but I think that I showed a willingness to learn, and I was very interested in all the advice I could get my hands on, and I started like watching guides about how to play my job, and
see, I have to learn things by doing it wrong. That's why, like, whenever I play a video game, the first thing I do is like, all right, how can I kill my character? All right, can I jump off the edge? Okay, can I stab myself? Like, how do I kill my character? Like, just so I want to get like a fucking parameter in here to understand what the world that we're dealing with is like. I learn by doing. Well, I could say I think I learn things by doing, but I really learn them by fucking them up. That's a little bit more honest.
I personally, looking back at myself, I wouldn't necessarily say that I was a bad player, even if I was playing kind of bad at the time. I think that might be another important distinction to make. I mean, I feel like it's a little bit too final to call somebody, oh, you're a bad player, because it sounds like there's nowhere to go from here. Like, this is just a label that you have on yourself and you can't grow out of it. Instead, I prefer to say, you know, maybe I'm playing bad. I am playing bad on Samurai right now. It's kind of like how my dad used to say, you're being an idiot. Instead of saying, you're an idiot.
No, people are going to think that that's a personal insult anyway because they're stupid and they're mad. But yeah, I think that's a really good way to look at it. And it's like a good way, like I do this to myself. I think a lot of people do, where like you like say that you're stupid rather than you're playing bad, right? It's like you're bad rather than you're playing bad. I think it is a better way to communicate if you say it the other way around.
Never do that. And he would say, look, I'm not calling you an idiot, but you're being an idiot. You're acting like an idiot right now. You're acting like one. And I feel like that might be the same kind of logic I'm applying here in a lot of cases to players who are not doing the best on a job, but it's like only right now. And it's natural. It is a natural step in the progression towards becoming a little better. You can't skip over that step of sucking. Well, I mean, maybe some extremely good players can, but most of us can't. We got to wade through it and not be too hard on yourself or shame yourself too much while you're moving through that. And, you know, it might even be helpful for you to be able to identify when you are performing poorly on a job, or if there's some jobs that you are doing a little better on than other jobs, so that way you can improve. Because like I said before, the players,
I think if you don't acknowledge that you're bad, you can never be good. Because like if you can't acknowledge that you're doing something wrong, then how can you ever do it right? Because if you're not doing it wrong, why would you change it in the first place? So it's like if a person cannot acknowledge and not see what they're doing wrong, then you're not going to make any progress with helping them get better.
Who are straight up bad are the ones who don't want to improve. They think they don't have to. Refusing help. They are not listening, and they're just stuck. They are really stuck in that rut, and that's why I would label them as bad, because I mean, where can they go if they don't want to help themselves?
It's that simple.
Being able to tell which jobs you are doing good at, which jobs that you could use a little help on.
Someone says, what's the definition of being right? It seems subjective. No, it doesn't. Whenever you're in the fire, you're wrong, and whenever you're not in the fire, you're not wrong. It's that simple, really. Like, it is actually that simple. And like if you're doing low damage, like there's like an add-on that tells you how much damage you're doing. And if you're doing less damage than the average for people that are doing the same thing as you, then you're bad. If you're doing more damage or equivalent damage, then you're good. It's actually not subjective at all. There are things that are subjective inside of it, right? Micro things. But on a macro level, whenever you're talking about like overall performance, there are just generally accepted benchmarks that you either meet or you don't meet. And that's it. And that's the good thing about numbers, is that they're fair. Numbers, they tell you the truth. They don't sugarcoat it. If you're a 5 and everybody else is a 17, then you suck. And that's all there is to it.
It's going to be, that's good. That's something that would separate you from someone who is straight up bad. And remember, too, that being bad or playing badly now on a certain job doesn't mean you're going to be bad on that job forever.
Not
and it doesn't mean that you're bad at every job in the game
True.
or the game as a whole. You know, I mean, I think I'm pretty decent on Dancer, but you put me on Samurai, you put me on Ninja, I'm going to play like crap. And that's okay. I don't feel bad about that. I feel like it would kind of be boring if I just woke up and it was immediately amazing at every job. I mean, that's not very fun. Part of the fun for me is the process of learning all there is to know about a job and practicing it and like watching how you're getting better and better. Like that's exciting. That should be part of the enjoyment of play.
I agree with that in a way, right? Because like I remember whenever I learned how to parry in Valheim. Like, I didn't learn how to parry in Valheim until, like, fucking, like, I got up to the snow world or something like that. Maybe, like, still in the swamps. Like, it took me a long time to learn how to parry. And then as soon as I learned it, I went from being dog shit to being a lot better than dog shit. Like, it was a massive fucking improvement for me. You can parry? What, you can... Yo, no, bro. What do you mean, dude? You don't know you can parry. You have to use, listen, you have to use one of the round shields. You can't use a tower shield. You have to use one of the bucklers or a round shield. And if you put your shield up right before they attack, it goes ding, and then it takes the attack, and it stuns the NPC, and they take more damage because they're in the, like the vulnerability phase. Yeah, it's just like Dark Souls, and you can parry, like somebody could shoot an arrow at you from fucking 30 yards away, like, shoo, and then you hold your shield up, and then you go bing, and then the guy 30 yards away will go like this. Oh, I'm serious. Try it right now.
At least it is for me. Some of the ways that you can gauge how you're doing overall is ask yourself, have I been able to clear quest battles, like solo instances, on their intended difficulty? Okay, like if you can only clear these solo duties on easy mode or very easy mode, then I hate to say it, but you are not doing well on the job.
Then you a dick sucker, boy. And that's the problem, man, is sometimes you suck. And it's okay if you suck. It's totally fucking fine if you suck. Like, I've had a situation, right, where I remember I was doing Guardian Ape in Sekiro, and each attempt would take me 17 minutes because I didn't know that I could parry the sword in the second phase. And I didn't know anything about the game. It was a 17-minute attempt. And at a certain point, I asked myself, why is it that they have these 1 videos and all the guides for killing Guardian Ape are only 3 or 5 minutes? Like, why are my attempts 17 minutes long? And I was like, well, maybe you have to parry him twice. That's about it. Yeah, it's
that you're playing. That's assuming that your gear is decent. Like if your gear is around the right item level that you would need it for that solo duty,
that's good.
And you're failing it on, unless you put it on easy or very easy, it's clear that either you need to work on your rotation.
I killed him, by the way. Took 19 minutes.
You're not able to meet even the most basic DPS checks in there.
Yeah.
You're not listening to what the NPCs are telling you to do, or you don't know how certain mechanics work. Like you've got to be able to make it through these quest battles on the normal difficulty. Also, check how you're doing on Stone Sky Sea. I know it's not perfect. I complain about it all the time.
The fuck is that?
But especially if you're a healer, like it's not super good
at all. That shit.
If you're a healer, but it is a solid tool just to check how your rotation is. I mean, if you can get the duty to under 10% on minimum item level, you can rest assured that you're performing quite well, and you're doing more than enough for the normal or hard mode content at least. One sign of a good player, and this is especially true of Sprouts, is, being able to take note of mechanics, what they look like, and remember that, and respond accordingly in the future. That's one of the things that I think
Well, there's a lot of, games have this where there's a certain type of, visual indicator that means a certain thing. So, for example, in Final Fantasy, blue things you stand under are generally good. Now, there are some exceptions, like, the Midgard Sommer fight in, the level 50 dungeon, the blue thing, you don't stand under that. But overall, you stand under the blue things, and you don't stand under the red things. And then also, there are other there are other effects where there's, a circle, and there's, arrows going in. This means it is a stack mechanic, and everybody has to stack. Now, WoW has the same thing, whereas in WoW mechanics, there's a circle around you, and there's, kind of sparklies coming out from the middle of it. It's almost a bonfire of, whatever effect it is. That means that it's a stack mechanic. And being able to identify those patterns will immediately make you 3 times better at learning fights. Just understanding what patterns look like in the game.
Normally, and not boosting will help you a lot with, because you will have to go through a bunch of different dungeons, and as you go through them, you'll start to recognize the patterns of the different mechanics. And it's okay if you mess it up the first few times, first 2 or 3 or 4 even times, but if you see these same mechanics over and over and over and over, and you keep dying every single time, that's not good. You need to check and see what's...
Trictagon reminded me of this one guy that we had. His name was Snyders, and he had 3 wives, and he lived in Alabama or something like that. And he was a multi-boxing hunter, and he was in Siege of Orgrimmar progression with us. And there was this one ability that one of the Calaxi did in the second to last fight on Mythic. It was called Death from Above, where he would go up in the air and he would land on somebody, and he would die to it every time. And I remember I asked him one time after he died to it, I'm like, Snyders, have you ever not died to that? And everybody else was quiet. He goes like this. No. And he never learned it. We just got geared enough to where we could just do the last phase with him dead. Yeah, he never fucking learned the mechanic. He never learned the mechanic.
Going on? Am I not noticing the mechanic going off? Am I like tunneling? There's no shame though, I think, in dying to mechanics that you've never seen before. And look, we all make mistakes. We all derp from time to time.
You sure do.
There are definitely been times when I have failed to a mechanic that I had seen, and that's a point when I usually ask myself, hey, am I really tired right now? Do I need a break right now? Why did that happen? Do I need to focus a little harder? You know, you need to be able to self-reflect on that and not immediately point the finger at somebody else like, oh, it was actually their fault. Like usually when something goes wrong, the first question I ask is, what could I have done better? Was it me? Was it my fault? Or did I ever do everything all right? But there are some people who, and I would call these people bad players, people who the last person that they would point at is themselves when they got it backwards. You're the first person you need to check. Because you're the only person you actually really have any control over. So it's a little crazy for me when people don't check themselves at all, are not interested at all in how they're doing, are quite lazy with their approach and their attitude to the game, and yet they go into a group content and they expect everything to go smoothly because they expect everybody else to have done their research and to know what's going on, you know. And by the way, you know, you don't have to min-max to be good. You don't have to be like super pro at your job or anything.
This is another one of the fucking you know, casual delusions that the only way for you to be able to like there's only two worlds, right? There's the world where you don't even know what your buttons do, and there's the world where you're this super omega nerd that spends all day on World of Logs or Final Fantasy logs, whatever the fucking website is, poring over them and like memorizing rotations. But the truth is, like, most people are probably in the middle, but the people make it out that way because they just want to find an excuse to be shitty.
To do most of the content that is in the game. Having a general idea of how your job works, how your spells work together is not rocket science. It's not something that's going to take you 5 hours of YouTube tutorials to figure out. Like literally just spend a little time. If you got some questions and ask some people in your FC or hell, even in my Discord server, and there's many people that will help you figure it out. It's not going to be, I think some people just build it up so much in their mind that they think, oh my God, this game is so complicated and there's so much to learn and it's also complex and it's so in-depth I'm never gonna be able to figure it out. So it just, I think some people get intimidated and they push away from even learning the most basic things about their job that are really not hard to get down, you know. People kind of get into this.
This is another problem that WoW has too, is that like some people, like they overhype the idea of being good at the game and being serious about it, and they just take things way too fucking seriously and they just blow things completely out of proportion. Whereas like really it's not that big of a deal.
Mode of it's one or the other. It's either I'm gonna chill and be like more or less lazy and not pay attention to what's happening on my screen, or I have to be like this super high end and I need to like be the best and I've got to min-max and like, oh, I've got to be super into it. It really isn't one or the other. It's more or less like a spectrum between one side and the other side. It's really better if some people would make more of an effort.
Why not? Because I got a clean dick.
You know, put in a little effort instead of getting super intimidated by their perception of how difficult or complex things will be to learn. It can take weeks or months to become incredibly good at the job you are playing, but in the meantime you can be,
if you're me, it takes just a few hours.
I mean, you can be all right. You can be decent. You can be an asset to your team. You can be someone that people want to have around, that people want to invite to their groups. It doesn't
you don't need to be a wizard. Like, you don't need to be a 99th percentile player. Just be good at what, like, this is what I've always looked at in like games, right? Mechanics are more important than damage. If you can't do mechanics, it doesn't matter how much damage you can do because you're going to be a liability. But as long as you can do the mechanics and meet the minimum DPS requirement, I am happy with you.
Take a whole lot of work to get to that point. This is a fairly simple video. I just wanted to get my thoughts out to reply to this person who asked me what is my definition of a bad player. Because as I said, I think there's a difference between someone who was a bad player because they just are
a bunch of nubs,
don't care about getting better.
Yeah.
And there's someone who might just be bad at the job they're playing right now. And that is okay. It's okay to be temporarily bad so long as you are actively working towards becoming a little bit less bad, because it's natural to have that bad step in the learning process.
It's completely fine if you suck dick at the game. The problem is whenever you volunteer other people to suck dick with you. So like if you're going around and you're playing by yourself and you're garbage at the game, who cares? But if you're going and you're queuing up into dungeons and you're queuing up into trials and shit, and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and you're wasting everybody else's time, then you're the asshole. But if you're playing solo, you can suck at the game as much as you want.
Process, as we've been over, learning process is good. It's something to be embraced. It's not something to be afraid of.
Extreme, you're the
it's not
asshole.
something to get super
exactly.
defensive about either, or to shame yourself about. Because it shouldn't take too long for you to go from bad to half bad. Maybe go to from half bad to like decent, good, okay, all right. But I really think that every single player has the capability to improve to the point that they can do all of the high-end content in the game. I really do think that. And I think
I don't think so. I think that like most people besides like extreme, like for my mom, for example, like she could not, right? Because she's old, she's got problems with her fucking eyes, like she's not going to be able to do it. But like an average person like you in chat, like the odds are you, Mr. 24-year-old guy with, you know, relatively good vision and a gaming PC, bitch, you don't got an excuse. Learn to play.
That I have probably even a more charitable
there ain't no excuse for you
than a lot of other players might. But I have a background as a teacher, and I think that certain people just give up on themselves way too soon, and they don't see the potential within themselves.
I have that happen to me sometimes.
This YouTube channel, I try to encourage people
to
jump
tilted
out of their comfort zone a little bit, challenge themselves.
I go to the moon.
Maybe be surprised by how much improvement that they will see. But I want them to enjoy the process of improvement as well. I think the only thing that will keep you playing bad and that will prevent your progress, that will hurt you more than anything else, is you either not believing that you can do better,
I can see that,
or you refusing to look critically at what went wrong and asking yourself if you had any part in what went wrong, if there's anything you could have done better. Like if there's
we had people like this in my guild, and I remember like my guild master would never know what to do with them, and I think that they would just take a day off and then let me be the raid leader. By the next day, that person wasn't in the guild anymore. They were done. Yeeted and deleted. They were out. And the odds are they were the ones that quit. But I didn't kick them. I made them quit. Because there's some people like that they just don't know what the fuck to do. I used to be a dick, man. Like, and I don't feel bad for it at all. Like, that's what they deserved. To come in there and waste people's time.
Anything you could change or adjust to do a little better. Are there any aspects of the game that you would consider yourself to be quite bad at? Do you remember, like, are you good at a job? Are you good at something in the game, but you remember a time when you were not so good at it, and what helped you move from there to where you're at now? I think that might be really helpful for people to hear about in the comments section down below. If you like this video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon or on Twitch. You can also support the channel for free by clicking the subscribe button or by sharing this video with your fellow warriors of light. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
And honestly, like, I think this is a good point. Definitely, like, being bad at a game is just it's wasting other people's time. I think that's the worst issue with it. When does chat get to suck some dick? I don't know, guys. Actually, I'm not sure. Probably soon. I think soon is a good idea.